Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Travis Holzem, who is a founding partner of Food Forest Design Solutions. Travis, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Yeah, would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and then the business that you're in?
Yeah, my name is Travis Holzem, and basically, I started a company called Food Forest Abundance, or Food Forest Design Solutions. Sorry, but and basically, what we do is we transform your everyday lawns, backyards into the Garden of Eden, and we help people with self-sustainability and growing food.
Yeah, this is a unique business model. What was kind of that initial spark that led you to decide to do this type of essentially landscaping, which produces food?
Well, for since 1998, I've been a web developer, web designer, graphic designer, and that's basically what I've done. And I've built websites for many, many people and many different niches and industries. And each time I've had to get to know that industry in order to build a site for them. And I've dealt with a lot of startups. Well, 10 years ago, my friend Jim Gale uh, had designs for an 100% off grid greenhouse that you would put in your backyard. It was here in Minnesota, it'd be perfect because you can grow food year round out in your backyard. Um, and I saw the drawings of this thing. I've always been interested in growing food and just watching something grow from seed and then also produce food. And I saw this drawing of this, and I'm like, it instantly captured my attention, and it completely changed my whole thought process going forward as far as growing food and self sustainability. Well, I started talking to my friend Jim about this, and we tried to bring it to the marketplace, and it ended up being too expensive to manufacture. It was the 100% off grid. It had solar panels, it had chicken coop attached to it, aquaponics, hydroponics on the inside, it had water catchment system, thermal food dehydrator. It was the most complete system you could have in your backyard, but too expensive. So going forward, we kept banging our heads together trying to figure out, where are we going? And we tried other models of this, but it was just too expensive to make. Um, so we during COVID, right in the beginning of COVID, my friend Jim had a store in a mall selling countertop or hydroponic systems and different types of stuff like that. And the mall shut down. So he had no business to speak of. And so he calls me up. He said, "Hey, I'm completely out of business." And he goes, "Want to start a company with me?" And like, yeah, what do you want to do this time, right? And so basically, we talked for a couple hours, and bam, okay. I built the website. He took care of the face. He was the storyteller, and basically, we found a permaculture designer down in Florida to help us out. So we started thinking growing food in schools, bringing, uh, designing a school food forest for a school or churches and all these other types of places and city parks and public land. And then for some reason, we weren't thinking residential at that time. And then all of a sudden it clicked, hey, this would be perfect for everyone to turn their lawns into a food producing space. And we can solve a lot of the world's biggest problems by having healthy, locally grown food without poisons, pesticides. and completely self-sustainable. So once you plant a fruit tree in the ground, just like your normal ornamental tree outside, it's going to grow. You don't have to do anything to it other than the first couple of years, prune it up, depending on how big you want your tree. There's It's as hands off as you can be. And that's what we wanted, is to create a system where it's less maintenance than your lawn and there's no poisons or anything. So that's how we got to that point, and then that's how it started. So 4 years ago
Wow,
it
4 years
started,
ago.
and had no idea what I was doing. uh and I was totally interested in it from a long time ago, but now it finally, the picture came into view, and it all came together. So I've been building this from the ground up for the past 4 years, from not even having a mentor to look to, because no one's ever really created a business like this before.
No, it's
So,
the first time I've heard of anything like it. So tell us what those first couple years were like, right? Because this is a unique business and nobody else is doing it. There's not a playbook for it out there. What were some of the things you needed to learn those first couple years?
well, I had to learn all about permaculture. I already had the experience with web development, so building a website, uh, putting up all the social media, all that type of stuff. What to focus on your social media. You got to have a YouTube channel, got to have content, right? uh, so that stuff all came naturally to me, but I had to learn how to think like a permaculture designer. So I immediately, once I'm building the site, I'm learning everything about permaculture, because I have, plus I have to create a message to give to people to attract them to us. And so I watched 44 videos that were, I think it was 72 hours total.
Oh,
And from a man named Bill Mollison, who is the father of permaculture, and one of the most renowned permaculture designers in the world. And so I watched all his videos when I was at the gym riding a bike for an hour for cardio. Put my headphones on and watch his videos. So it took me a few months to get through it, but that taught me the basics about permaculture. And then I started doing installations. I had designers, found designers, and then had to learn how to plant a tree the right way so it lives. You can dig a hole and put a tree in the ground and then put the soil back in, but you don't know what kind of soil you're planting a tree in. You don't know how much sun that tree's going to get. You don't know how much water that tree's going to get. And there's a lot of factors, you know. So basically, I had to learn a completely new system and think in a design science, developing ecosystems, So that was the struggles, is learning something brand new when you're turning 50, right? You've been doing something for many, many years now, starting over again and learning. But it's best decision I ever made, because it's such a fulfilling business.
so talk to us a little bit about what was maybe your work-life balance like right at the beginning, and has it changed now, or is it still, are you guys still in startup mode, or now are you kind of more in the growth?
Um, I here locally in Minnesota here, I'm still trying to break through, because a lot of people, back in World War I, World War II, our government used to encourage people to plant food and plant victory gardens, is what they call them. So everybody supporting the war efforts were planting food in their yards. So when everybody started doing this, there's 1.5 million farms across this country producing 8.5 million tons of locally produced food. Okay, and then we have gotten away from that because convenience was sold to us to buy your produce at the grocery store instead of growing it in your own backyard. Why take all the time to grow it when you just go buy it, right? So nobody's growing food anymore. So, but now that you can see the sickness in people, we got sickness and disease all over the place from the food we eat. And, only 20% of the food in your grocery store is real. Everything else is something that didn't exist 50 years ago. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we're at there.
Yeah, so talk to us a little bit about how important is innovation in your business? And then what are you guys doing? What are you doing to kind of stay on top of that innovation and that change in your marketplace?
Well, trying to convince people to grow food is not easy, but what I have been doing, but it's not our permaculture design is not your normal landscape design. So we sometimes it could be expensive for your average homeowner, depending on what they want. So as far as innovating goes, what I have, because I have a background in web development and graphic design, and now designing landscapes, I've been working with AI, and I've been creating a system that does a lot of heavy lifting for me to get the data that I need for a landscape or property, and without taking the human element out of the design work, because there's nothing like human ideas, and you have to be able to observe what's happening in a landscape in order to actually design it properly. Mm-hmm. So that's what I have been doing, and what that does, it not only streamlines my design process, but it brings the cost way down. So your average consumer is going to be able to hire my business to design their backyard, and then they can focus all the investment money that you put into your yard in food in the ground. So
I think that's
yeah.
So maybe talk to us a little bit about, could you offer a glimpse into like your future plans and goals that you have for your business, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, as far as I want to see food forests everywhere. I want to see them in everybody's yard. I want to see city parks, all these public lands that our tax dollars pay for. They're just green grass with nothing on them. But ornamental trees. I want to see our tax dollars being put to good use by putting food in the ground, creating food security for everybody. You solve food insecurity by having fruit trees and berry bushes growing in every park. I mean, there's so many things. My head spins when I think of all the ideas as far as that goes. But we're also getting into the prison system and putting food forests in prisons on the land, and the inmates actually learn a skill while they're in prison. Okay. And then once they get out, they will have a skill to bring with them, and they're not getting out of prison with nothing. And just where they went, say they were in prison for 10 years. Well, they're in there for 10 years. All they remember is what they were doing 10 years ago when they went in. And when they get out, that's where they return to because they don't know anything else but inside the cage, right? So you teach them a skill and they go out and not only are they have a skill, but they can help others. And the recidivism rate for someone that goes through something like this is less than 10%, you know? Um, so that's another place. And then senior living homes, have the seniors go out in their little community areas and go pick an apple or an orange or not. Well, depending where you live, an orange. Um, but beyond that, my my main goal is to have a large educational site, permaculture farm, to not only serve the community with locally grown food, but also to have people come and learn how to grow food, self-sustainability, and all, animals, chickens, and livestock, bees, and a food forest planted everywhere around the property, and to show what is possible and how easy it can be if we take our resources and use them wisely. Instead of planting like every neighborhood that goes up right now in everywhere, when they put these in, instead of putting ornamental trees in the ground, they should be a fruit tree, and then the shrubs can be berry bushes. People don't realize this could be just as beautiful as your ornamentals, because an apricot tree in the spring, they bloom, they're beautiful, and it really adds to a landscape, but it's also giving back because you're getting food out of it.
Yeah, my
But
apple trees and my pear
yeah,
trees bloom every year.
yeah. And so you can still have a beautiful design or a beautiful yard and still grow food, you know. And case in point, I designed a property out in Minnetrista, and they have in the front yard is where they put the septic in, was a large dead tree trunk about 15 feet high, just sitting there in the middle of the landscape. So what I did for that, I used it as a trellis. So I built a pollinator garden around this tree with climbing roses going up the tree. So, and everything is functional. Um, and then that's pretty much uh, what what I do.
Okay,
Sorry, I kind of lost my thought there.
good. That's all right. So I'm going to ask you, knowing that this show is targeted towards people who are going to be in their first few years of business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Wow. Be prepared for lots of long hours and sometimes going long periods without making any money. So if I had one thing to make sure you have a backup to support yourself as you are building your business, or get lucky and I hope you get a really large investor, you know, but yeah, you will spend a lot of time. Your business is going to own you until you can finally own it. Um, so basically are you do everything. Like in my case, I do everything. I do my website, my social media, my YouTube channel, all the editing and everything, and all the marketing, and I also design landscapes, and then I do the installs. So I have everything. So you're putting an estimate together for a property. You have, hopefully you have a system in place to help you with your business, or a good mentor to learn from that can teach you the steps. In my case, I didn't have any of that, and I had to build it from scratch. But it definitely would have been much easier to have somebody to learn from. And that's one thing, but just be prepared to put in more time than the money you get back in the beginning.
Well, that's great. So thank you so much for your time today, Travis.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was great meeting you, learning more about this unique business and business model. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have an amazing